What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan, and I am here today to talk to you about the 3-2 quadruple. Yes, quadruple overtime loss to the Montreal Victoria. To give you an idea, look. I had to write damn near a novel just to get my thoughts. I cut a lot of things. I cut a lot of my thoughts. I had to limit things. Because this game, when I try to keep my videos, keyword try. I try to keep my videos somewhat decent in terms of time. Early when I first started, I know I still am relatively new at doing this. You know, it's been like a bit over a year now, but I try to keep it a decent time. I had some videos early on go on way too long. I didn't even realize how long they were going. Now I try to limit myself, check the time, actually condense my thoughts. And I don't know how I'm going to do that. Because this game, it was 4 overtimes long. I got a story for you for how long this game was. It was on Mother's Day. Now, my mom and I, we love hockey. One of the big reasons why I'm a sports fan is because of my mother. She got me into football, hockey. She's the reason why I love sports as much as I do. And for Mother's Day, my family brought her out to see a movie with her. Now, being that there was an Ottawa Charge game, we were not about to interrupt our hockey watching with a movie. So we said, okay, what time should we go to the movie? We didn't want to go like super late, you know. Next day was a Monday. We have work and whatnot. So 10:30 was kind of off the table. We said 7:30 is good, right? And we're like, well, the game starts at 2. It starts at 2 p.m. Let's say it goes to overtime. Let's say it goes to double overtime, triple overtime even. The game will be done by 7:30, which is, you know, the movie started at 7:35. Okay, we have to leave the house at like 7:10 to make it on time. The game will be done by then, right? And when we left the house, the game wasn't done. We had to record the game, like the next few shows on TSN, turn our phones off completely so we wouldn't get any notifications. We went to watch the movie, had to come back home, and then go back to the game and watch it from the point that we left off. Because that's how long it took. If this game started at 7 p.m., like every other game in the series does, it would have gone into the next day. This was the longest game in PWHL history. And I can tell you, when that happened last year, we had a triple overtime game last year, I thought to myself, wow, that's a long game. That's a record that will probably stand for like a few seasons. That's what I thought. But like eventually it will get broken by a record that will stand for like a while. I think this is that game. This is the game where it's going to probably take a long time and a lot of expansion for this record to be broken. Because it's not even that it was 4 overtimes. It was deep into the 4th overtime. We had 135 minutes of hockey. That means that the goal was scored in the final 5 minutes of the 4th overtime. They played one game of hockey. Then they played a whole other game of hockey, another 3 periods, and then they still needed another quarter of a game to wrap things up. That is how long it took. You want to get the positives about a loss like this? The positives is that it took that long for Montreal to win. For a few reasons. One, they had played one game. They played a second game. The third game had started and it counts for 1 win. Does not matter how many overtimes were played. This is 1 win for Montreal. They don't get to retroactively say, well, hey, like we played 6 full periods and then scored an overtime. Too bad. 1 win. This could end up being the longest meaningless game in PWHL history as well. Because if we win the next 2, too bad. So sad. And this game very well could have been 2-0. was looking like that's what it was going to be. We were down 2-0 in the final 5 minutes of the game. And I'm willing to bet if you were to tell a Montreal fan, you will win this game, but it will take you 4 overtimes, when they were up 2-0 with 5 minutes left, they would not have liked that. They wouldn't have loved that prospect. They would have said, but we're up by 2 with less than 5 to go. We're just going to close the game out, right? And if we don't, overtime will end relatively quickly. Not only did it not end relatively quickly, both teams had a 5-on-3. Theirs was far longer in overtime. I thought when we got the 5-on-3, like, this is it, what a comeback, end them right here, right now, and we didn't. And then I had the opposite feeling of like, oh, that was the chance, right? Like, that was the opportunity to win the game, and we had it and we blew it. And then Montreal gets a 5-on-3 of their own, and I'm like, that's the game. Like, that is it, right? Because our 5-on-3 was like a little under 30 seconds. They had over a minute and a half of 5-on-3 power play in sudden death overtime in the playoffs. They had that in the first overtime. They won the game in the fourth. And this was at home for Montreal. This is what they mustered at home. My hope is that rather than this defeating us playing so much hockey only to lose, we look at this and say, look at how much hockey they needed to play just to beat us at home. At home. If we can play, especially if we can play like we did in those overtimes when we were energized, we could win this series in 4. That's the other, I think the biggest positive takeaway out of all of this. This game was a non-elimination game. And this was a game where we were leading the series. Okay, we lost. We're up 1-0. Now we're tied. We have 2 home games. Tuesday we have a home game. Friday we have a home game. Win at home, and this doesn't matter. This game was must win for Montreal. If we won this game, the series is done. It's iced. If we come back down 2-0 with less than 5 minutes and win a quadruple overtime game to take a 2-0 series lead, they might as well not even get on the bus. Like, the series is iced. The series has life now. The series is well and alive. And depending on the type of hockey that we play at home, Game 3 could tip the balance one way or the other. I really believe that. If Montreal uses this as inspiration, as momentum, that they pushed through all the adversity of 4 overtimes and overcame it, and we don't rise up to that, we're going to be in some trouble. But conversely, if we're able to come in with the mentality of they goofed picking us, they goofed big time, they had to fight so hard, just to barely beat us, they're in for a ride. Now that they have to come to our barn, we can flip the narrative on its head. This also makes me think that this could be, I feel like who wins this series is going to win the cup. Based off of Game 3 that we saw between Toronto and Minnesota. So this game went 4 overtimes because the goaltending was so elite. Gwyneth Phillips had, let's see what the total was, 53 saves, which I think is second most all-time in PWHL history, but don't quote me on that. In my opinion, Desbiens and Philips had the best and second best game in PWHL history, respectively, in terms of goaltending. They both played amazing. I'm fully convinced you have to protect Phillips in the expansion draft. You have to. She is our number 1. She's our bona fide number 1. And I want Maschmeyer to still be on this team next year. I do. I think that just because you're a bona fide number 1 doesn't mean you need to be starting 20 games next year. I am okay with the tandem. I'm okay with a Phillips-Maschmeyer actual tandem. I think that would work, but Phillips has more than proven herself. And you cannot give her like a third of the games next year. If we get a starter who's like going to start 20 plus games, it has to be Phillips. Look at this. Look at this performance. And let me be clear, the only reason this game went for overtimes is because of goaltending. It is not due to a lack of opportunity or a lack of chances or a lack of good chances or good looks. The amount of times I wrote down, and the game would have ended if it wasn't for Desbiens or Philips absolutely going God mode and making a save that absolutely shouldn't be possible. If I had $1 for every time I did that, I mean, I'd have enough money to buy a sports franchise of my own. This was amazing. Phillips had 53 saves. Desbiens had 63 saves. Do you know how rare it is for there to be like a 10 shot, or I guess like a 9 shot difference, a 10 save difference, and for it to not even feel like one team like thoroughly dominated? Like, I can't even look at that and say, wow, we had 65 shots. We should have won this game. We totally deserved to win. How could we blow it like that? Like, they also had 56 shots. Like, when we're talking in magnitudes of 50s and 60s, a 9 shot difference honestly isn't even that much anymore. Like, it's not. This game had what, 100 and 11, is it? 111 shots? Yeah. 111 shots. A 65-56 split isn't that bad. It's actually pretty close. The goaltending was amazing, but also, when you compare that to the goaltending we saw in the Minnesota-Toronto game, oh my goodness. If we see those goaltending performances in the finals against the goaltending performances we saw between Charge and Victoire, it is going to be a very, 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 very one-sided sweep. I'm thoroughly convinced at this point that Phillips is inarguably a top 2 goaltender in this league. Top 2! Oh, but Campbell let in 7 in the playoffs. Phillips let in 3 over the course of 7 periods and over 50 saves. Night and day. Phillips, in my opinion, maybe is deserving at this point of a goalie of the year nomination. I will say, either Phillips or Maschmeyer. You have to nominate one of them. If not, I'm going to lose it. Phillips, in my opinion, not only deserves a nomination for Rookie of the Year, genuine consideration for winning. I know it's probably going to go to Fillier, and I wouldn't be mad. Like, I wouldn't blame them for it going to Fillier. But in my opinion, it's Fillier, Phillips, Massive Valley, and then everybody else. And I know people are going to be in the comments saying, well, actually this or player, that player. Like, you do get this as a rookie goaltender in the playoffs going toe-to-toe with maybe the greatest goaltender, like period. Like, in the history of women's hockey. And this rookie in the playoffs went shot for shot with her and went to a 4th overtime in her rookie year. Phillips is going to win a lot. She won gold in the IHF tournament because she stood on her head and made 10 saves in a 3-on-3 overtime against Team Canada. That's not normal. Your average person cannot do that. Your really good goaltender cannot do that. Your elite goaltender cannot do that. Your Hall of Famer goaltender can do that. We saw 2 Hall of Fame goaltenders go at it tonight. Hall of Fame, both of them. Desbiens, I think that's a lock. I think Desbiens is going to the Hall of Fame. If this is the way Philips plays throughout the rest of her career, I'd honestly say if she just plays like this for another 5 years, she's a lock, right? Like, she's guaranteed. Like, I don't have words for how out of this world this game was. And the reason for that is because both goaltenders played on such a different level from anything I've seen. This was a playoff game, a vintage playoff game. I have friends who watch the NHL, some that really watch it, some that kind of watch it. And, they kind of watch the PWHL, not much. And when I told them about what was going on in this game, everyone tuned in. And everyone was floored. And everyone was like, that was an absolute thrill ride. This game is what grows the game. Games like this. How can you not love what we just witnessed? Like, as a fan of hockey, how can you not say that was great? We lost. I'm the guy who loses his mind when we lose. But what do you want me to say? Again, it's not like it would have been a lack of scoring if it wasn't for that late push. Yes, there were so many opportunities for us to end it. There were so many opportunities for Montreal to end it. Like, it goes both ways. This game could have ended in the first overtime. If any other goaltenders were playing this game, it would have. If Campbell was in net for either of these teams, the second the 5-on-3 happened, game over. If any other... Frankel's great. If Frankel was playing this game, I genuinely do not think that she would have gotten Boston to a fourth overtime. Don't. Because in my opinion, I witnessed the two greatest goaltenders. We saw one solidify themselves as the greatest of all time. You have genuinely the best goaltender to ever do it and the best player to ever do it on the same team at the same time. And then the crazy thing, what's really nuts? I'm really not convinced that they're going to beat us. I'm not. I'm actually, if anything, more convinced that we're going to win this series now that it goes to Ottawa. Because I also witnessed the rise of Desbiens' competition. And I don't mean this series. I mean, I think this game is a signifier of this is who she will be compared to when the dust is settled. We saw Martin Brodeur and Patrick Roy go at it. That's what we saw. We saw Gordie Howe versus Wayne Gretzky. Yeah. In the WHA, they had one playoff series against each other. That's what we get to see in this series. We get to see the one who is currently the undisputed greatest goaltender go against somebody who I genuinely think, if this is Phillips' ceiling, she will have a claim. She will have a legitimate claim. You want me to break the game? We had a bad start. I don't even know what happened with the puck. It was in their end, and it just bounces, goes all the way to the other end. Free breakaway for Montreal. They score. It's funny. On Phillips' first shot of the game, she let one in, and you'd think that's a bad omen, and it was the absolute opposite. After that, the game evened out. Phillips played obviously amazing. The second, I thought it was a good start. I thought that the first two shifts were in our favor. The next two were in Montreal's favor. That's how I felt most of the game went. Spurts of Ottawa. Spurts of Montreal. Spurts of Ottawa. As overtime went on, you could tell that Montreal was finding, a little bit extra. Like, if you look at the shots, In overtime 1, we had 11 to their 7. Then we had 8. Then we had 5. Then in overtime 4, we picked it up. We had 8 shots. We were starting to get our mojo back, but that was also when they started to take over. They had 10 shots. That was the most shots they had in any overtime period, or in any period for that matter. The only period where they hit double-digit shots is the period where they ultimately won the game. In the second, Montreal was doing a good job of challenging, I thought. Like, every puck, there was a puck battle. Every time it was in our end, there was a challenge for the puck. They score. They make it 2-0. And then immediately we strike right back, and it gets called off. I got to quickly talk about this, refs in general. I got to wrap it up soon, too, because, like I said, I have a lot to talk about. It went 4 overtimes long. I don't know what else to say. I think I've covered the 4 overtimes for the most part. The 5-on-3s, how in each overtime we kept looking good. Both teams looked good. Both teams had opportunities. But, in the first overtime, we were the better team. Then in the second, I thought we were better, but not by as much. Then in the third, I don't know, it was starting to lean Montreal. In the fourth, I thought both teams played well, but it favored Montreal, and yeah, it ended up favoring Montreal. I think there was a lot of energy coming out of that third period for us that led into the first overtime. And then as the second overtime went on, it's like, okay, that kind of went away. That started to become a bit of a rear view memory. Yeah, that's the part that nobody's going to talk about, that this was also a miraculous comeback, and this game should have never gone to overtime in the first place. But we strike back. Yeah, so speaking of never should have gone to overtime in the first place, if this goal stands, we win the game. Aren't you pissed off, your local Ottawa fan? Aren't you fuming? Aren't you saying, you robbed us, we should be up 2-0, curse you, hockey gods? No. For 2 reasons. It was goaltender interference. It was, I do get where the argument is, which is that the contact did not affect Desbiens' ability to make the save, and I personally don't think it did, but I also get why the call on the ice is going to stand. I think, again, this is a classic situation where I think if it was called goal, I honestly think it would have stood. I think it would have been enough to say, well, is it, fully convincing, oh, well, maybe we didn't impede her ability to make the save, but it was called no goal, and I thought that the challenge didn't make sense. I get why you did it, right? You're down 2-0 in the second period of a playoff game, and you have a goal, a pivotal goal. You got to keep it on the board. You got to at least try. At first, it looked like it didn't cross the line, and I was fuming. I was like, it clearly crossed the line. What do you mean no goal? And then when I realized it was goaltender interference, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. And the other reason why I'm not fuming is, okay, let's say this goal counts. Ottawa wins 3-2 in regulation, right? Well, probably not, because then when we tie the game with 5 minutes left, we don't pull our goaltender in the final minute and score a goal. And I really think that extra attacker was pivotal in creating the play that led to the tying Brianne Jenner goal. So I think if this goal counts, the Brianne Jenner goal doesn't happen. So I think in either case, Ottawa was scoring 2 goals this game, one way or the other. And I'm glad it happened the way it did, where it actually was a comeback, and I think it put a bit more pressure on Montreal. We get a penalty. Last game, penalties were terrible. This game, we did great killing penalties. We faced 4 penalties, killed them all, including the 5-on-3 in overtime. This penalty kill was the best penalty kill of the series, in my opinion. We had more chances than they did. I get that it's tempting to say the 5-on-3 was better, but we nearly scored a jailbreak on more than one occasion. And yeah, it sucked that we gave up a goal, because I felt like we played better in the second than we did in the first. Our best period was the third period. We thoroughly outplayed Montreal by, in my opinion, a significant margin. And we weren't able to find Twine. We weren't able to find the back of the net. But we are getting a barrage of chances after chance. We got 1 barrage. And then 3 minutes later, we got another barrage. And eventually, good things happen. Right off the face-off, Teralova with a snipe and turns the 2-0 game into a 2-1 game. We keep the pressure on. We pull the goaltender, and Captain Brianne Jenner, captain, my captain, she shoots, she scores, very similar to her goal in the first game where she's just left wide open with a gaping net. Why would you do that to one of the best players in the league? She scores with less than a minute, ties the game at 2. And I think that if the overtime ended quickly, that's what we would be talking about. We'd be talking about the thrilling comeback. This game should not have gone to overtime. It was a 2-0 lead with 5 minutes left. And I hate that this is probably going to be remembered as like the game where Montreal dug deep and found a way to win that quadruple overtime. They should not have gone to quadruple overtime. And I think that's the mentality we need to have. Like, what do you mean you're happy that you won in quadruple overtime? We were done. And we revived ourselves. And we dragged you into 4 extra periods of hockey. And guess what? We still have home ice advantage now. Like, okay, now you get to come to our barn and play 2 games. And if you drop both of them, you're out. That's the mentality to have. And like I said, I felt we played way better in the first overtime period. And it just progressively didn't get as strong. Here's how I'll end the video. I'm going to count every time I say a player almost ends it but gets denied. Okay. Montreal almost ends it in overtime, but Philips makes save of the year. I say this like 5 times. Then I talk about the 5-on-3. Jenner almost ends it. Desbiens gets just enough, and that kills one of the penalties. Jenner had a close chance, too. In tight, this game could have, like I said, could have gone either way. Okay, now it's Montreal's turn with the 5-on-3. PK looking good. And they nearly finish it. Then, near the end... Oh, I think I said that twice for them, right? Yeah. And Savalainen with one last chance. But, okay, so that's 5 golden opportunities in one of the periods. Let's keep going. After this, I said, what a period of hockey. I was like, wow, this is one of the best games I've ever seen. After 1 overtime, I had no clue what we were buckling up for. Right out of the gate, we have a few chances. I'm going to call that 1. Hughes almost scores with that. Being way out, centers it for an open chance. No one's there. Then Ishova almost ends it a few times. I'm just going to count that as 1. And if our passes were like 10% cleaner, this game's done. That goes for both teams. Oh, both teams are getting chances. You can see the game's evening out, which isn't good, right? We've been controlled through the 3rd period and overtime, and you can start to see that in the 2nd overtime. Things are evening out. Again, we almost end it. The puck comes back the other way. Now Montreal gets a barrage of chances. Philips does her job, and we play on. At this point, I'm talking about how insane the shots were. They were 49-38. I had no idea. Now we're going into the 3rd period where Montreal's flying right at the start. Philips is forced to be great early. Montreal's getting chance after chance. And then so that's another one. The Chargers starting to heat up, much needed. Desbiens wins a race to the puck that, had she lost, would have ended the game. She comes way out of her net. If she was a second, honestly half a second slower, it's an empty net, game over. And that would have been the worst way to end it for Montreal after being played as well as she did, even up to that point. And she still had a whole other period of hockey left in her. But no, so now we're at 16. Just did the overtime. 16 times where I was like, oh, the game should be over right now. That's how many times this game, in my opinion, got like extended just solely due to goaltending being miraculous. We aren't done. We have some great back and forth hockey with both teams getting exciting chances, including a break by Mexner, which almost ended the game. Both sides with a mountain of chances. Nothing finds the net. Goes to a 4th overtime. I like our start. We get a few chances, including McMahon, who almost scores. And then we get on the 20th. Those goaltenders in just overtime we're putting up over 900 apiece. When Dubois ended it on... It was a turnover in our end, but not like a typical Ottawa turnover. It was finding a way for Montreal, in my opinion. Montreal just, right place, right time. That's how it's going to end. And the one other piece I want to say, and this was important for me, I needed to look at the time on ice. And I couldn't help but notice something. Something alarming. Why is House on this team? Seriously, why? If you're not going to play her, why is she on the team? When you go into 4 overtimes and you have players playing for as long as they did, put her out for a shift at least. You know, I'm not saying to put her up against Poulin, but against a relatively gassed, you know, second or third line for one shift, when she would be fresh. She played 3 seconds. You know why? Because we had a delay game penalty, so she went in the box and then left the box, and for 3 seconds was on the ice before she went to the bench. I played as much as she did, practically. I could have put on my rollerblades, done this for a few seconds, and I played as much as Taylor House that game. She's on the bench. She's on the roster. I get, you know, in the start of the game, you have your 4 lines. It's close game. You don't want to mess with things. I feel like in a 4th overtime, that's when players would actually really appreciate it if somebody else could just cover one shift for them so they can take a little bit extra time to catch their breath. And Taylor House is fresh. And, like, she's good. Like, again, I wouldn't put her against Poulin. In a one-on-one against Poulin, yeah, I know how that's going to go in overtime. But don't put her against Poulin. Put her against the 3rd line when she's fresh, when she's seen no ice time. And you know what? She might be able to do something. I'm not saying she'll necessarily score the game-winning goal, but she might have a little bit of extra speed to find somebody open or to do something. I'm somebody who believes if they're on the roster, if they're on the bench, if they are on the bench as a dressed player, I'm somebody who believes if you're in a 4th overtime, every single dressed player, except the backup goaltender, should have seen, like, at least 2 minutes of ice time. At least. Because at some point, you got to look at your player who you've not iced at all and say, well, like, it's been 3 overtimes and nobody's scored. Give it a shot. That's the one thing that I think I'm upset about. We should have played House. Maybe that would have made a difference. Maybe. If this was an elimination game, I'd be pissed. I'd be so pissed. If the goaltender interference was a bit more dubious, oh yeah, I'd be fuming. But honestly, this was just a great game of hockey. Tell all your friends about it. Tell them to watch the highlights. Tell your friends who aren't that into the PWHL to watch this game back. Watch the condensed version on YouTube. Watch the highlights. Because it's games like this that will make you a fan. And this is a tough loss, tough pill to swallow. But guess what? We're tied. We're just tied. Not even behind. We're tied. The next 2 games are in Ottawa. Win a homestand, and you make the finals. We're still in a good spot. And if the goaltending between Minnesota and Toronto is what we face in round 2, it won't be a very long series. And as always, go, Ottawa. Go!